Hi, it's Norman Kochnik, a rather shaven Norman Kochnik. Obviously, he must think he's got something important to do tonight. And we've got Chris Vernon here as well. This is Norman Kochnik on Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnik. Some people have complained about me saying my name too often. I'm afraid that's the name of the show. It's a way of me getting my name across, I guess. But I will try to look at that in the future. Again, let's not forget on the bottom there. I can see like Norman Kochnik at Norm Koch. And if I go across the screen, I can't actually. Chris, you've got to put a finger over your one.
Yeah. I'm having a few more ads, to be fair. I've had a few people message and ask questions and tag me and stuff. Often
that's good.
Pro India, but that's all good.
So at Norm Koch or at Chris Vernon at Vern158. So we've got this is again an episode of an Aussie and a POM talking all things India. This is episode 9. Sorry, 9. Was it 9? That's it, 9. Episode 9. So things are going really well, guys. We've had a lot of encouraging comments regarding some of the things that we've done recently. So we really thank you. We want this to grow, as you know, and we want us to be a very engaging channel. And I think it is. Just to let you know, we've got a special guest coming in about 15 minutes. Chris, could you announce who that is, please?
Yeah, so it's something a bit different today. Obviously we're trying to have the whole world involved and chat about cricket. So I've got a friend of mine that I used to work with who is now the head coach of the Serbian cricket team. He was on the tail of
Serbia, as in former Yugoslavia, Serbia.
Yeah, Serbian. Yeah, so they are coming up through the ranks, and it's just something slightly different. Obviously, we're quite lucky that both of our countries in England and India and Australia have, best side in the world status. But it might be interesting to hear sort of an associate state, sort of the struggles and the tests, and see what cricket's like played in other parts of the world. So I thought it might be slightly different, something that everyone watching might find interesting for 10 to 15.
I think it's very relevant. I mean, I've had a lot to do with countries like Bhutan, that has a cricket team, Oman, with the likes of Dulit Mendes, with a population of 4 million, about 3 million expats. They're now in the top 20, 25 teams in the world out of nothing. Had their first grass outfield when I was there. And Bhutan never had a cricket field, now they have. It just goes to show how far cricket is actually reaching out in the world. And we can thank a lot of our viewers who have migrated to those particular locations. It's been great. I can see that Lakshi Sharma's there, Munchie's there, Indian Memasvala.
She's got a new dog, Lakshi Sharma. She's got a new puppy. She sent me a picture. And very, very cute puppy it is too. Cute. So hopefully she's been kept busy with the new dog.
I'm sure she has been. And Gary Bunker has a question. What did he say? He said something like,
how many sessions do you think the test match will last, the 4th test?
Well, I can assure you it's not going to go 2 days. I'm pretty certain it'll be well into the 4th day.
I think it'll be a draw.
Well,
I think it'll be a draw.
But it'll be a much better batting effort, I think, all round. You'll see the English batters, the team will probably stay similarly to what it has been. I don't think there'll be much of a change. India, I saw a photo of Bumrah looking very relaxed. In fact, he was modelling, I think. Very interesting. All right, so we're going to have the new Serbian coach, and Chris will be interviewing him with a bit of support from me. But again, this is an Aussie and a POM episode. We've got lots to talk about. The IPL is the topic that people do want to hear about. And in about 2 hours' time from now, I've got a very special episode with Deep Dasgupta. It was going to be with Catherine McGregor, who's from Australia, on our Sky News network. I've actually appeared on her show several times, but unfortunately, due to a contractual arrangement, Sky News wouldn't let her go on any other channel, which I guess is plaudits to this channel being significant enough that I can't allow her to be seen on the show. But
similarly, I'm not allowed to appear on Sky News Australia for the same reasons, Norman. Obviously, I'm contractually obliged to
on any channel. Exactly.
The morning nibbles of Norm is my premier station.
We might let you on one of the children's shows like Nickelodeon or something, but that's probably So, yeah, also the replacement, not, I wouldn't call it a replacement, another esteemed guest will be David Graveney, will be on that show, former chairman of the English selection panel, chairman of selectors. He'll be on that show to match up with Deepta Gupta, which former Indian wicketkeeper and obviously a major star on Star Sports with his commentary role. All right. That's enough selling. So IPL's coming up. We might talk about that a bit later. That's certainly significant. I think there's quite a few, well, a lot of the Australian players leave a lot to be desired at the moment. Daniel Sams, was he picked up by someone?
I think he was released. I definitely know that he played last year, didn't he? I think he might have been released. I'm not sure if he got re-picked up. There's so much to keep up with the auction, isn't it? It's I think he was on for 4 or 5 hours.
Well, Daniel Sams, what I'm getting at, though, he is playing fantastically.
Yeah.
And if someone hasn't picked him up, it's not too late. They should try and get an IPL contract for him because he's the standout in the Australian side at the moment, by far. And batting and bowling, I would argue that he should be given a berth. In fact, Andrew McDonald talked about him, the assistant coach of Australia. All right.
Daniel Sams, RCB from Ray.
RCB. Okay, well, watch out for Daniel Sams. He's in fine form at the moment. The third match, I haven't actually seen what the result is of that between Australia and New Zealand. Can you see that?
No, but I can look. There's another test match going on at the moment as well, isn't there? There's Afghanistan, Zimbabwe being played in Abu Dhabi, I saw this morning, and a rather unwanted test record for the Afghanistan opening bowler. I don't know if you saw that. Became the first person in test history to be out on the first ball of a test match on test debut. So that's definitely a record that you don't want, and probably he could have the rest of it. Well,
but you've got to take your health to Afghanistan. They're amazing. I mean, the conditions they have to train under. Of course, our esteemed fellow commentator on our program, Smokey, as in Adam Hollyoak, was a former coach of Afghanistan.
Yeah,
actually, no, Richard's already on. We'll let Richard stay backstage for the moment.
But they're not playing their full side. I don't know whether Rashid Khan's injured, but he's not playing. It looks like a fairly fruity wicket, to be honest. 130 all out Afghanistan, Zimbabwe 50 for 4. So I mean, it's great that there's some test match cricket being played. Thank you, Music Harmony, in the comments. We are looking at the comments. I know that Music Harmony is always fairly vocal on these sessions. So,
well, he has got another name.
The mystery man.
No, he's no longer mystery man. I know exactly who he is.
He's a mystery man to me. He's like the Stig. He's the Stig.
Okay. All right. So, so that's interesting. So, at this point, Afghanistan batted, you said?
Yeah.
And look, their bowlers are very much the Punjab-style bowler, very tall, lanky, fast, generally a very good bowling side. I'm very impressed with them, actually.
Yeah, I mean, they're just up and coming. They've obviously got, I think they're probably a very similar sort of Asian country in the respect that they're going to have good population. And if they can get sort of the cricket going into and as a passionate thing, there's no reason why they can't go from strength to strength, sort of similar to, look at other countries in that part of the world, Sri Lanka's, Bangladesh, there's a great opportunity if we can really get cricket pushed there that, why can't they keep going onwards and upwards and challenge the likes of Zimbabwe and the West Indies and Sri Lanka as a proper test match nation?
Exactly. I mean, there's no reason why they can't, and I'm very impressed with what I've seen. And Rashid Khan, they're saying, is injured,
which is a shame.
Well, probably more rested than injured, I think.
Was it a finger injury? I think Ray commented he got injured he played in the Pakistan Super League about a week ago, and Chris Gayle hit a ball at him. He went off. We bowled, but he was in a lot of discomfort. I don't know whether the injury is related. Is it a finger injury that it might be? If that's the case,
I don't know offhand, but
pretty worried.
Fawaz Ahmad, the actual Pakistani-born Australian bowler, has COVID-19 in the PSL.
I saw that, yeah.
It's rather unfortunate. I'm not sure whether that's quarantining other players around him. In fact, most players don't see each other very much, even though they're in the same side when they're out off the field because of that very reason. Because if you go off, the other players have to go off for 10 was it 10 days or 2 weeks or something. That was the case with Mo and Ali, wasn't it? Mo and Ali, and was it Ben Stokes? Were they the two that were?
Chris Wokes.
Chris Wokes,
Rhymes with Stokes, but not Ben Folks. Yeah, I don't know what it is over there. I assume that they're getting tested often. So we'll just have to see what they decide to do. I know that the Pakistan Super League is moving stadiums for the second half of the tournament. So that must be fairly close. We'll just have to wait and see. There's obviously games on today, and if it's different teams, I'm assuming they'll all be tested.
Chris Wokes has gone home too, hasn't he?
From India?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I believe he has, if I can remember. I saw a report about him going home. I don't know the reason for that, but he's gone home. And of course, what other news is there? There's obviously in New Zealand, the game was not played in Auckland; it was moved to Wellington, which allows the Australians to actually re-enter Australia without a 2-week quarantine on the return home journey, which they're very happy about.
Okay.
Because New Zealand and Australia got no specific quarantine unless you're in Auckland due to the problem they had there. So
yeah, and I saw they had a 5-day snap lockdown. We've got family friends over there. They said that there's been a snap lockdown. So
just quickly, Ray's to make a Q&A. Well, we're going to do a lot more of that. We're going to bring on Richard very shortly, but in fact, the Barnstead boy saying Wokes took his turn to rotate, so it wasn't injury based or anything. But
no, it's just they're pre-agreed. Yeah, he probably wouldn't have played anyway, so it's probably nice for him to get home.
Well, it's a bit hard to work out that you're rotated when you haven't even played. That's a bizarre way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and JD saying Best must play for the full. He'll definitely play. The way that Jeetan Patel was talking, he basically was talking as if he's in the side. They in those the English press conferences, you can get a very good gist as to the team because they're asked direct questions and they talk actively about what that player is going to do or has done, meaning he's inside. Surprisingly, there are very few Indian press conferences happening over the last few days. They've been predominantly English, which is interesting. And even the training visuals from the Indian team have been very limited. So they've been fairly low-key, which is, I don't know why they're in the ascendancy, but they've kept themselves a bit quiet at the moment.
Yeah.
But England have been quite vocal. You've had Leach, you've had Jeetan Patel. The announcement, of course, of the 3 coaches being made so-called permanent.
Yeah.
Marcus Trescothick. And of course, he's the batting coach. You've got Jeetan Patel as the spin bowling, and John Lewis has pretty much always been there anyway. And he's the fast bowling coach. He nurtured, of course, the likes of Archer into the whole thing.
Yeah, he's got a very good relationship with Jofra Archer. Yeah, so
well, he actually, I think he discovered him.
Yeah, he certainly got him over to the UK. Archer lived with him, or he was his landlord for a first couple of years, and obviously was heavily involved with Sussex. So I think when you see Archer and Lewis talking or out practicing, I think that there's a much better relationship there than just coach and player. I think there's a friendship and a big respect there from Archer. You know, he's a pretty laid-back bloke, and I think that Lewis knows how to get the best out of him potentially.
So Jonathan Trott and Graham Thorpe, what's their stories?
I would assume that they're still there as maybe
assistant coaches, as opposed
assistant coaches, or
as opposed to being a specific technique or routine. It's more general, their roles. So they're there still. Okay, so Ray's saying that Broad, Anderson and Archer are out and Stone, Wood and Bess are in. That could well be possible.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I think that Wood will play for Archer. Archer maybe wasn't 100% fit. Bess will obviously come in for Broad, and they'll just take a view on Jimmy. I don't know what they'll do.
I actually think Wood's going to make a difference. I'm predicting that Wood will get quite a few wickets, actually. Something about his bowling that very much, I think, Bumrah-like, takes a very short run up and whips the ball out. I think there's a potential for him to do pretty well. All right. So, as I said before, we'll have Deepta Gupta later. I'm really revving this up. Deepta Gupta, looking forward to having him on. And obviously, David Graveney will provide that good yin and yang, won't they? In fact, David Graveney was telling me about Graham Gooch, made some comments. It was either David or Graham Gooch himself said that if India were doctoring the pitch for this particular match, that means they've been chatting for the last 100 years. So that was an interesting take on it, which is a fair point. I mean, this pitch hasn't exactly been any different to some others. All right, so shall I bring on our guests?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So we've got Richard Black.
Hi, Jen.
Hello, Richard.
Hello, mate. You're right.
Having me on.
Can you hear?
Yeah, got you loud and clear.
All right. You might want to take yourself back a bit from the camera because you're a bit too close. But that's you were guilty of the same thing Chris is, leaving your blinds open behind you. You look a bit like it's a bad habit of Englishmen to leave their blinds open when it's too bright.
Because it's not very bright in England very often, especially given cricket climate at the moment. You know, it's pretty dark and gloomy. So
no, I'm referring to the term bright in terms of intelligence, not the. Yeah, you're not. You think you're a bit too bright, but maybe you should close the curtains. No. All right. How are you, Richard?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Really good.
So you've got a hashtag there. I can see was it cricket?
Cricket Serbia.
Well, there you go. You're
There you
advertising yourself already, aren't you? Cricket Serbia. Have you got your Serbian background?
No, I don't. Very much British. Yeah, so I don't have any Serbian roots at all.
Okay. All right. Now, what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to let Chris run the show. Chris will be asking questions of Richard.
As I have been for the last few weeks anyway, running the show. Norm, is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't say that. Chris has delusions of grandeur. Richard, he thinks he's running the show. Just laugh appropriately, okay? No,
I think
you know what? He can't stand the fact that I said that Rohit Sharma would be 147 not out the first day. He giggled. This is the way he did it, Richard. He went, like that. It was the most pathetic laugh, and he was bloody wrong. I was bang on right. So
I did see that. I didn't want to mention it. I did see that from one of your last
shows. Did you see that? Yeah.
How do I remove Norman out of the conversation?
Pathetic laugh. Pathetic laugh.
You see, JD,
it's on record that I was
on cricket with Chris Vernon. JD's got the right. Maybe Chris on cricket. Maybe we can get rid of the eyes on. You know.
I'll give you something between the eyes in a minute if you don't want it. All right. Okay. Over to Chris.
No, I just thought. Obviously, our chats have been going. You know, we've obviously got the up and coming Test match, and that's obviously very much England-India based. So, I just thought for people watching that it's just something a bit different. You know, obviously we're quite lucky, England, Australia and India-wise, that cricket is flourishing and is, you know, there's, I think a lot of the times people forget that cricket is played across the world and in different styles or in different places on different mats or pitches. And, you know, I've known Richard for a number of years now. I worked with him a little bit on a coaching side of things, and just thought it'd be interesting to sort of hear his thoughts. I know he's been on the Tail Enders podcast on the BBC. In the last sort of couple of weeks with Jimmy Anderson and Greg James, is it, Richard?
Greg James.
So just sort of something different, and just to see what cricket's like, not necessarily in just, you know, top tier nations. So, I mean, do you want to just sort of give us a rundown, Richard, about how you got into it and how it works?
Yeah, so basically, I wanted to get involved in a project within Europe, working with grassroots cricketers. Now, a lot of European cricket is very much expat based. Within Serbia, we don't have very many expats. So a lot of the Serbian cricketers, if not all of them, are actually Serbian born and bred. And I really wanted to get involved in a grassroots project within Europe, and this kind of ticked all the boxes for me.
Right, and what type and what's the level of cricket? Is it popular? I mean, are there lots of clubs in Serbia, or is it just a?
So there's 8 clubs in Serbia, so 150 active playing members. Majority of cricket is played in the capital of Belgrade, but there are 2 clubs in Vojvodina, which is in the north of Serbia, and they're 2 Romani community clubs.
And what sort of? I mean, obviously it's difficult to tell, but are you eligible to play, or, you know, can you be playing coach, or you have to be qualified, or what's the?
No, so it's quite stringent in terms of eligibility. You either have to be born Serbian, so have a Serbian passport that way, or your parents or grandparents have to be Serbian born and bred, then you're eligible for that, or you have to have lived in Serbia for 3 years. So no, I'm not eligible, and I won't be for some time. Yeah, because I don't live there, for one.
I've actually visited Serbia. I may be able to qualify.
How long did you visit?
Play?
There, I felt like a long time.
Long enough.
And what sort of, so what's the pathway for you guys? Is there an ICC pathway? What is it an associate nation at the moment? What's the journey there?
Yeah, so in 2019, we got given ICC associate status. So we're now preparing for our first World Cup qualifiers this year,
Awesome.
the European version. So if you win this, you then go to play the other 3 group winners from Europe plus Jersey. If you win that, you then play, I think it's Papua New Guinea, etc., etc. So we're on the pathway to that. You know, it's going to be a long journey for us. We've got quite a few limiting factors. One being the lack of expats within the country. So, as I said, all of the players are Serbian born and bred, which puts a real ceiling on our level of achievement at this point. Funding wise, we're in currently the lowest bracket from the ICC. So that doesn't go very far in terms of facility, etc. And from the Serbian government, we get less funding than bowls and luge. So it puts a real perspective on where we are in terms of that. And even small things like facility. We've got no indoor nets. And in the sports hall that we have, we can't use cricket balls. So there's a lot of hurdles to overcome. But we're hoping that we can break those down as we go.
And what's the standard like at the moment? Where are the guys at with everything?
So, I mean, I would say realistically, if you're looking at a Premier League club in the UK, you're probably looking at about a 3rd 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your sort of level then?
Say again?
Your sort of level then?
Probably just about my level. I'll just about make the side.
And so what's the aspirations for World Cup? Who else are you playing in the qualifiers in your group stage?
So we're now 8 teams that are there with us in July. We have Denmark, Austria, Portugal, Czech Republic, ourselves, Romania, Isle of Man. I think that makes 8. And I think based on last year, it was split into 2 pools. So last year's pools, we were in the same group as Belgium, Austria, and Portugal.
And do you all meet up at one country? Does someone host it and you play each other over a week period sort of thing? Or?
Yeah, so our group is in Belgium. The other group was the other 2 groups, one was supposed to be in Finland and the other in Spain, but I think the Finland one might have been moved, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
I think I don't know what Norman thinks, but I'm very keen on cricket in general. I love the game, but I never knew that Romania and Serbia was an international cricket. You know, I think it's really interesting just to see how widespread cricket is. And are those countries, are there sort of strong Indian, say, expats or English expats, or is it more they have to be born and bred, or what's the setup?
Yeah, so because Serbia is not in the EU, we don't get the expat base, whereas teams like Romania, Hungary, Czech Republic, etc., will generally have a huge expat base. We're very much the flip side of that, which I said obviously it makes things a lot more difficult in terms of having players that have a real base knowledge of cricket.
Yeah.
If you come from India or Pakistan or wherever and you're brought up on cricket, you know, you tend to have more knowledge, I would say, than people that were generally born and bred within Serbia as such.
So I spent 5 years in Germany in the early 90s, which is a long time ago. And I actually played in Munich at a place called English Garten. Cricketers in whites. We actually had I'll call it an international match. We call ourselves Germany at that stage. We played against Italy in a place called Ispra, which is north in the lakes there. And they had Martin Crowe playing for them.
Yep.
And that was quite an honour. So way back then, forgetting Holland, which is a bit of a stronghold, and Germany for that matter as well, there was a fair bit of cricket going on. And a lot of Yugoslavians had migrated to Germany and watched us play cricket and were taking it, you could argue, back to the old former Yugoslavia. So maybe there's some roots back then for some of the players. You never know. Yeah,
I mean, we have found that there are quite a lot of old Yugoslavians playing in England and Australia, obviously because of the migration after the war. So there are roots outside of Serbia to tap into, but obviously that's quite a complex issue in terms of we don't have funding to get players across and et cetera, et cetera. So we're very much at the moment focusing on guys within Belgrade until we can better ourselves and get more funding, I would say.
So it's specifically in Belgrade?
Yeah, the majority of players are in Belgrade for us. As I said, there are a couple of teams within the north of Serbia in the Romani parts that run, but the majority of cricketers are from Belgrade.
Is Djokovic from there? Is Djokovic from there?
Yeah, he's Serbian. I'm not sure he's a cricketer, mind, or much of a cricketer.
Well, I mean, for God's sake, he can hit a ball properly. Get him to play a few games.
Yeah.
Munchie asked a question. There must be
that might be a great thing to do, actually, is to get Djokovic to play a mock game and get publicity for it.
Yeah, I don't know how to get hold of him, but I certainly think it's a good angle. Maybe Twitter, I'm not sure. Maybe he's watching.
When there's a will, there's a way.
He might well be watching. You know, he might be a big cricket fan. We're not sure. If you're watching, Novak, comment. Munchie asked a question.
Actually, more one of the Australian players might be watching, and they might be able to get the message back to him.
Yeah, maybe.
There must be Serbs living in England or Australia that could be eligible. Is that are there Serbs abroad who?
Yeah, there are. We know that there are, and obviously that's an angle we could go down. But the issue, as I said, is we don't have money to be able to get those guys across. You know, we're not in a position, for example, like someone like Italy, who have money that they could potentially get players in and out. We don't have that luxury. I mean, as I said, we can barely afford cricket balls and kit, than airfares back and forth, etc.
Only for the top coaches, obviously. So how does the coaching work at the moment? Are you getting over to Serbia to coach? Or, I mean, obviously with COVID, it could be quite tricky.
Yeah, so normally I would go across pretty regularly. At the moment, we have one level 2 coach in Serbia that we meet with regularly to plan sessions for the week ahead. What we're using at this moment, we're using an online cricket platform. So footage is sent of players from Serbia to 6 level 3 coaches in the UK, Australia and South Africa, who go over footage and give players feedback in Serbia, and they work on that stuff under the guidance of our level 2 coach out there.
You know, I think it's brilliant. I mean, I know Norman will feel the same, but just, you know, you've got 6 or 7 proper coaches who are. I mean, I assume that there's a thirst for just learning over in sort of Serbia and those parts of the world. I mean, ultimately, cricket, it doesn't have to be, the beauty of cricket is, in my opinion, is it doesn't matter. You don't have to be playing test cricket. It can be, you know, a friendly on the village green on Sunday afternoon. You're still playing the game and you're still enjoying it, aren't you? So. Yeah,
and I must say that the job that the guys have done in Serbia has been tremendous. I mean, we're very, very lucky in the UK that we've got access to everything, you know, balls, nets, etc. You know, just as a small thing, trying to get kit into Serbia is an absolute nightmare. Getting it through customs, having to pay certain fees, it's really difficult. And the guys, you know, Vlada, Harris, and Boggy out there have done a tremendous job in raising the profile of the game and developing cricketers out there. You know, I don't think many coaches could have done what they've done with the stuff out there that they have or don't have.
No, brilliant.
It's amazing. I mean, I'll give you an example. The Asia Cricket Council, which Ramesh Ratnaik, a former Sri Lankan player, was the head of at one stage. He had so many countries that you wouldn't believe that began to play cricket. For example, the Maldives. All you got there is resorts and beaches. I wouldn't have thought there'd be any cricket at all, but they've actually got a good friend of mine, Baba Surja, a Sri Lankan rugby player who used to coach cricket in Australia, who coached Andy Bickle and a few other players. He ended up being the national coach of Maldives and Bhutan at the same time. And Bhutan didn't even have a cricket pitch. And he introduced a cricket pitch. The Sultan of Brunei, or the King of Brunei was, not Brunei, of Bhutan, was someone he knew as well. And it was quite incredible. It's very exciting when a country takes on cricket in that manner. And you've got that opportunity, Richard. So good on you.
Yeah, thanks. It's certainly a challenge, but obviously, you know, the boys are really, really keen to develop, and, you know, it's a really exciting project for us moving forward, certainly.
I know that you said there's not a lot of government support, but is it something that they've taken an interest in potentially supporting down the line? I mean, is it something they're keen to look at?
So, you know, we have had meetings with people higher up in the political world, I guess, and they've shown an interest. But I guess until we kind of start performing on the world scene, it's a slightly difficult challenge. It's a slightly difficult sell. You know, if we can come away from the tournament and compete and maybe get a victory in that, then I think that would make a real huge difference, both to our push towards getting more funding and getting more publicity, etc., in Serbia and outside of Serbia.
What's the colours? They're blue and red, are they?
Yeah, blue, red, and white. We've just designed our new kit. It looks interesting. I like it, but I think it will make us stand out for sure.
Well, I'm expecting one with the name Kochnak on the back. Just a hint.
Let me know where we have to send it.
Sure, I'll be the #1 ticket holder in Australia if you like.
It might be something, as someone commented, Norm. Obviously, we've had Simon Willis on a lot on the show. Richard, who you'll know, he's started and he's looking at his new cricket coaching and developing coaches or players, and he's setting up quite an online presence with overseas partners. It might be something that you could have a discussion with him and see if there's he might be able to help. You know, he's obviously got some pretty good contacts, and you know, his new fledglings is fantastic.
Fledglings cricket. Yeah.
There might be something worth exploring. If it might be able to add something to the Serbian side, then all for it.
Yeah.
Did I miss it, Richard? Did you explain your own background, your own cricketing prowesses?
No, my cricket background is my main background's teaching. So my main job is head of cricket at the Royal Grammar School in Guildford in the UK. So Serbia is very much a part-time role. But in terms of playing, you know, it was just Premier League cricket for me. Nothing really of note as such. So yeah, no professional background there.
Good old Guildford. I remember staying in Woking, Surrey there.
Yeah.
Not very far away at all.
No, not far at all. Just up the road. We have quite a few boys that commute in from Woking. So
I remember good old Woking. That was a nice area. I think it's Elton John lived in Woking or something.
Was he Watford or Woking?
Watford. Well, I assume it might be. He's chairman of Watford Football Club, Elton John. So it might be Watford, but it starts with W. For these Aussies, that's, you know, it's as close to spelling as they get. So.
And Elton John and Rod Stewart or something. Anyway. All right.
Banstead boy in the chat, Norman, says the shirt for Norman will be a XXL. That's not very nice.
Banstead boy, where's that delete button? Quick. Oh, don't put yours. I'm not XXX. What makes you think that? You only see from this high up. How do you know? I might be as slim as. Okay, there are some videos I'm sideline, maybe occasionally. Don't look at the one of me at Watson's Bay. I show my stomach in that one. Do not look at that one. Okay.
That's why we've lost all of our Indian lady fans. You know, obviously massive influx when I came on board, and now you've posted that video, Norman. They've all run off again. So
I doubt it very much. Richard, this banter goes on all the time. It becomes excruciating. I realise that, but I have to put up with it. Yes, I mean, this is episode 9 of an Aussie and a POM. Should be an Aussie and a POM bickering. Should be the name of the title. All right.
Obviously, more of the cricket. Sorry.
Hang on. Kane Williamson is blowing kisses and saying, "Please don't stand. Please don't stand up, Banstead boy. I'm going to stand up in a minute with a big bloody stick. I'll tell you." Okay.
What? Obviously, more cricket. Obviously, we touched on Serbia, but what's your thoughts? I'm sure our Indian fans would like to know your thoughts on the current series, Richard, and what's your predictions for the 4th test and who your side is. I mean, obviously, as a keeper, I'm imagining you're pretty happy to see Ben Foakes in the fold. Yeah,
you know, I'm a massive fan of Ben Foakes. I think I'm slightly concerned that maybe the art of keeping's going out the game slightly. And I'm pleased to see that Ben Foakes, who arguably we would say is probably our best gloveman, is now got the gloves. How long he keeps that for, I don't know. But I'm really pleased for him that he's managed to find his way into the side, and I hope moving forward he can sustain his spot. In terms of
if Butler comes back, does he lose his spot?
I mean, it's a tough one. For me personally, has he done enough over the last during his career? I'm not sure. He's got 100, has he not? During his time, is that enough to warrant your spot? Difficult one to say. I think personally, Foakes needs a run, but that's just my personal view. But that's a brave call.
Well, the fact is, he got Wokes, Foakes, and Stokes on the one side, so it kind of rhymes.
In terms of the series, I mean, you can't really look past India at home, I don't think, can you? I mean, I would think maybe that India will probably now see the series home. You know, especially with their options of spin. We're not sure about how the wicket will play. Yeah, I think India might take the last one, if I'm honest.
Are you saying England will win the last one?
No, I think India will win the last one.
Oh.
I think there's no turning back now.
I'd be surprised if India don't win and win well, mainly because the wicket will suit them, clearly. In such a short space of time, the wicket will not be any different. It'll be a turning wicket. Patel will come into his own if he plays again, which I'm sure he will. Yeah, I think it's pretty certain. And the importance of the World Test Championship as well.
Yeah, and I think we need to not really beat around the bush here. I'm not sure England's spin options are good enough, and that's probably quite harsh. But we're going to India on turning wickets. My personal view is that potentially we should be doing better. Whether best is the answer is another story, but I don't think at this point we have any better options. And
so who are the other? There are. I've just received some practice session still shots of the. I'm actually just posting it on my platform, and there was another fellow bowling spin. What's the other
Birdie?
Sorry,
Birdie.
Yeah,
off spinner from Surrey, and we've got Parkinson, the leggy. I mean, if you're picking Bess ahead of Verdi, well, if you're going to pick Bess ahead of Verdi, it probably tells you what they maybe think of Verdi. But look, I hope he gets a go, but I can't see it in the last game, to be honest.
Well, Monty Panesar is currently in India, but he's there playing the, what's it called again? Something Safety League.
Road Safety Legends League or something, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's a word something in front of it. I didn't quite get that, but it's a Road Safety Legends League. Yeah, he's playing there under Kevin Peterson. So, and as you probably know, Richard, if you've been watching, Monty's been a part of our program quite a bit.
Yeah, I've seen him. He's been quite active, just generally, I think, all over Twitter and on here. And yeah,
we're quite lucky to have him on the show.
Yeah.
So, have you been watching
now? I'll tell you.
Have you been watching?
Have I been watching your shows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them. Really good.
What do you mean a few? You should be watching all of them.
Oh, I've seen a few. Last few, I'd say.
Okay. He tried to get away from working with me a few years ago, so I don't think he was any great rush to watch me on his computer screen on his time off. So,
all right. Yeah. So, and Sachin Tendulkar's playing in that Road Safety World Series. Well, quite commendable. It's actually got quite a bit of a charitable side to it, I believe, as well. So, interesting. The Sri Lankan squad's also totally there. I saw a whole range of players there. All right. Just quickly, the test. Well, tomorrow night we're going to have our so-called full preview with, I'm sure Simon will be on, David and maybe Monty, Adam, Apana, and the like. Whoever we get, we'll get on that show, and it's usually a very good show, leading into the teams toss and tantrums, which is our pre-first day show. Richard, if you're available, we'll see how you go. We might get you on.
Perfect.
Only if you send me a Serbian top with the name Kochning on the back, then we'll think about it.
You've got to send me your address, and I'm sure we can get you something sent out.
Did you say you're going to send me a address, or you need my address?
Depends what you want. Normally it'd be your address. If you want address, I can find you one.
No, I don't want a Serbian address. No. Okay. So, yeah, the fact is, tonight there'll be deep just Gupta, which is quite impressive with David Graveney. So, all right, great. Chris, sorry. What do we see as our life? The IPL, we really won't talk about it too much until we get through the T20s and ODIs that are coming up. But we need to keep an eye on that because there are some, injury clouds over some of the international players already that I've seen. And I mean, most extraordinary is, well, this is test related, is Chris Gayle has been selected in I think it's the Touring ODI, T20 side. Yeah. And he's 41.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
It's fantastic.
Obviously he's never going to play Test cricket and one-day cricket. He's probably past it. He's a bit in the field, and I just think he's just brilliant. I don't think anyone honestly can watch Chris Gayle and not just feel enthusiasm and just enjoyment from cricket any time he goes out to bat. And I think that the Kings 11 last year were a better side when he came into what Punjab Kings they're now called, was just a better team when he came into the setup. And I just think that he's brilliant. I mean, and just the while he's involved with cricket, the better.
Look, I've been with him in Australia on a number of occasions. He visits here quite regularly because of some of his commitments. And just to watch him bat and being like meters away from him batting, I don't think I've seen a cleaner striker. Honestly, when he hits the ball, it's as clean as anyone I've ever seen. And he
has the heaviest bats as well, apparently. There's like 3 pound 1 bats. I know a guy in the UK who distributes or worked for Spartan and now works for SF, and he said that Chris Gayle's bats were literally like tree trunks. He said they were like £3.2 or something, just clubs.
I've got a great photo of him with an actually pure gold bat. It was worth a truckload of money. It was a bit of a promotional thing. It's quite amazing. So Richard Black's been asked by Ray about your opinion on the IPL. Have you got an opinion on the IPL?
No, not so much. I mean, I haven't been able to watch so much of it, to be honest, or previously. I like Royal Bangalore, the challengers. That's my side. I've had to follow one, but I haven't taken too much notice on it, to be honest.
But I'm pretty adamant that I'm wearing blue today. Delhi Capitals will be the winner. They've got the right mix.
Norman has a crush on Rishabh Pant, so wherever Rishabh Pant goes, Norman Kochnak goes.
Pants, schmants, what a lot of rubbish. The fact is that I really am a fan of Kolkata Knight Riders, to be honest, but I just have a good feeling about Delhi Capitals this year, and I think they're in with a great chance. So we'll wait and see.
Where's Hardik Pandya playing? Because his wife's Serbian.
Mumbai
Indians.
Mumbai, there we go.
What's his Serbian? His wife's Serbian.
His wife. Yeah. I don't think that qualifies.
I'd be targeting him.
Yeah. Might be able to help you out with some promotional stuff. I'm sure if you manage
to get hold of it.
Yeah.
If you're listening, get in contact.
There's your ambassador right there and then. Novak Djokovic and Hardik Pandya and his wife. There you go.
We've got 42 people watching at the moment, so he might be one of them. Or Mrs. Pandya, if you're watching, she might have seen a hashtag on Twitter, Serbian cricket, and think, we'll tune in today. So you never know.
Now, so why do I keep seeing this comment? Why don't Seppos play cricket? What the hell is Seppos?
Not sure. You'd have to explain yourself. Retro.
Yeah, I've seen that comment a few times, and I'm bit flummoxed with what that actually refers to, but I'm not going to find it now.
Garib Banker, Rich Black, who's your favourite batsman?
Current batsman?
Well, just ever. I think that's a fair.
I'll be honest, I was more of a Tendulkar man myself. I just thought it looked classy, real classy player. That's for me. Currently, Kane Williamson, I would say. I think he's up there for me. I think he does it across all formats. Technically, he's very, very good. For the purist, I like him, certainly.
Yeah, it's a pretty safe. I mean, it's certainly a safe bet with Norman's viewers to say Sachin. I think you've done quite a clever answer there. But I mean, Kane Williamson is brilliant, isn't he? He's probably got some answers for his test form away from it.
Did you say Sachin Tendulkar? Did you say Sachin Tendulkar? Or did you want to know about Don Bradman? Or just happen out of the books here. Just
Norman, when I've taught Norman to read, then he'll be able to get stuck into them.
So you're claiming they're not bright enough to read, is that right?
That's just what the general gist of Australia is in England. All a bit.
You're just you bumbling fool being an English guy. Bumbling. As in, no, I won't say. All right. Which country do not rely on expats? That's a good question. Papua New Guinea is one country. Look, Papua New Guinea, my gosh, they're fantastic rugby league players. They're mad about rugby league. Their cricketing prowesses have gone through the roof. They've got this uncanny talent. They're very impressive. They're very physically capable of incredible reflexes. I reckon the best wicketkeeper in the world actually is in Papua New Guinea. I saw a guy there with reflexes of a cat. He didn't drop anything. Quite incredible. It was New Guinea's my brother lived in New Guinea for over 40 years. I had a lot to do with New Guinea, and it's quite a unique country.
Was it you bowling at him, though, Norman?
Sorry?
Was it you bowling at him? Because I reckon I wouldn't drop much with you steaming in at me.
Did you face me? Did you face me at all?
I don't think I did, thankfully.
Okay, well, let's make this clear. How many games do you play on the SCG and MCG? I've taken wickets on the SCG and MCG. How many wickets have you taken on those two grounds? Can you tell me?
I can't say I've ever scored a run on those two grounds. That don't take wickets.
When you take wickets on the SCG, MCG, talk to me, okay? We'll compare notes. And by the way, Lords as well, and Arundel Castle. You played Arundel Castle?
I have. I've got 100 at Arundel Castle.
What, on the practice wickets or on the actual
ground? The main ground. No, on the main ground.
Who against under 12 Boy Scouts or what?
It might have been the Duke. I think I was playing for the Duke of Norfolk 11 versus a. I can't remember who it was against. It was it was a proper game though. It was a good game.
How many runs did you get against the SCG 11?
25, 26, I think it was, and 3 wickets, and we won. So yeah, that job done.
Did you take my wicket? Did you take my wicket?
I think I was captain that game, and I think Norman batted at sort of 12 or 13, so I'd taken myself off by.
My running between the wickets was actually the most spectacular I've ever seen.
Yeah, he face planted halfway down, Rich. It was an amusing moment.
The reality was that Chris put his leg out and I tripped.
Definitely
That's
didn't.
the truth.
Sounds like Chris trying to get one up.
Nicky Putt, question to Chris. Why don't the ECB focus on expanding cricket brands to other countries? Are these few countries scared of losing monopoly? I think that it's tricky, isn't it? Like, I think that you'd be surprised at how much support probably the ECB give to like the ICC, and probably the same as the Aussies and the Indians and the big. And I think that they fund or give funding to the ICC, and then they then sort of give the wealth out. Would that be a fair? Is that probably a fair?
Yeah, I think it's as you've said. I mean, obviously, someone like Serbia, we need to be realistic in where we're at in terms of funding. You know, we haven't won an international game of cricket yet, so obviously we can't expect to be on the big money. But yeah, I think you're 100% right. That gets filtered down accordingly from the top.
Gary Banker comments, and he's a popular viewer of our show. He said, Richard Black, how are the pitch in Serbia? Will the Englishmen score runs there?
Astro wickets. So we've got 1 Astro wicket at our main ground. You should score runs there. The bounce is pretty true. But yeah, so if you can get it through the outfield.
It's a bit of farmer's field.
How many games, I just want to clarify this. How many test matches have England won away in the last so many series? Can you tell me?
Well, we won in South Africa. We won 2-0 in Sri Lanka. I think we've won before the second test in India. We'd won 6 in a row in the subcontinent, which was over 100-year-old record. So,
but I heard a stat that you only won 1 game out of so many. Is that correct?
No. Well, we won in South Africa. We won in Sri Lanka. We
didn't win in Australia.
No, we will win in Australia. Hopefully.
No, hang on. I said I'm not talking about what you think for the future. I'm talking about what you've done. That's something.
Playing overseas is tough, isn't it? There's not many sides that go abroad and win. I think India's toughest series will be in England this year. You know, in terms of chances of winning, I think there's a lot. If you said before the start of the year, you know, I think that there's less chance that they'll win in England than they would win in Australia. Anyway, they've won in Australia twice in a row now, haven't they? So I think India will see their big test as a side, and a side they fancy being one of the best in the world would be if they can go and win in England, because I think that's probably the pinnacle for them in terms of the way they look at their test cricket.
So are you going to give an early prediction for the Ashes? Is something you want to do?
I can give an early prediction. I think there's such a long way away to know size.
No, I didn't ask about. I asked you just what your prediction is, not about any mumbo jumbo.
I don't know. It comes down to the batting, doesn't it? I think both bowling attacks will be quite similar. I think historically Australia have outpaced England, whereas this year we're going to go with Wood, Archer, and Stone as certainly as quick as the Australian, if not quicker. I think those 3 guys are probably quicker than Hazelwood, Cummings, and Stark. So Anderson will do a Jimmy Anderson. He'll be solid. Broad probably will be there as well. It just comes down to the batting. If we can nail a top 3, I think Sibley could do an Alistair Cook. He's that sort of mentality where if he's in form against seam bowling, Zach Crawley looks good. I wouldn't be
I think Alistair Cook's coming back out of retirement.
He'll probably be welcome, but I think England will fancy, having seen what India did, that they've got a chance, and if they can keep Smith quiet, and I don't think there'll be loads of issues in that batting lineup. I know Marnus is obviously a good player, but that Australia in quite a similar position to England is that their top 3 are quite untested, or they're not sure what their best batting lineup is. You know, you've had Wade in there, you've had, Pukovsky's obviously coming through, but he's now out for 6 months with a shoulder injury. And you know full well what England will do when he comes in, with his record being hit on the helmet. They're just going to, Wood and Archer will just bowl, just test him out. So Warner's obviously.
The key is Crawley. I think Crawley's the key. He's going to be the one that's going to stand up and be taken notice of, I think. If he bats like he did recently. So
yeah, no, I think England will fancy their chances, especially seeing what India did with, let's face it, not their best side. England will be up for it. You know, Stokes will play a key role. And then,
but you're not giving me an actual prediction.
Oh.
You've gone this big bloody circle around
I think 2-2. 2-2 with a draw on the flattest wicket.
Sorry, you've got this. Have you turned off like a half mute? What was that again?
2-2.
Speak louder than that.
2-2.
2-all. 2-2. Who says 2-2? 2-all.
Well, often when England are batting, it's 2 for 2. So I've heard it before.
2 for 222, as Richie Bennett used to say.
Yeah. I think England will win at the Sydney, at the SCG, and at Adelaide. No, yes, Adelaide under floodlights, and then Aussies will win at Perth and the Gabba, and a draw at Melbourne. There we go.
For the Gabba.
Okay, so you're saying 2-all. Okay. All right.
And if you want my prediction of the India series, 5 tests, England will win 3-1 with a draw at the Oval.
Will Rohit Sharma get 147?
No, I don't think Sharma will score runs.
You don't think so? Hang on.
I don't think he'll score runs in series.
In any of the test matches? All right. Okay. Well,
not in England. I don't think he's as his overseas record states, his record overseas is poor, and I don't think that the swinging Duke's ball is a compliment to his technique, which is quite a use your hands, you know, a good subcontinent Australia sort of technique, which is why they often the Indians or the Australians often struggle in England. That's why Kohli will come, Rahane will be a big player, Pujara, they're the sort of guys that will score runs in England, I think.
Well, he loves playing county cricket, doesn't he?
Yeah, and they play it a lot later. They typically have better foot movement, those guys, than say Sharma, and that's why historically they've scored runs in England, because you have to move your feet, you have to play the ball later. Whereas in Australia or in India, you can go harder at the ball, use your hands, you know, use your eyes. Whereas because the ball doesn't swing or move as much.
I've got a prediction here for you. It's 2021, correct, Richard? 2021. So 2027,
okay,
Serbia will play England at Lords, and Serbia will win by 5 wickets.
Really cool. Might hold you to that. Have you got that recorded, Chris? Hold on, let's write this down.
This is there. Well, I'm happy to wait.
I believe I'm psychic, because let's not forget who predicted that Rohit Sharma would get 147 not out.
Yeah, but that's like saying Ravi Ashwin will take 5 wickets. Hold on, an opening bat who averages 90 in India saying he's going to get 100 is hardly a massive thing.
I'm talking. Actually, I'm going to put you to one side there. Okay, just leave Chris to one side. Richard, so 2027 at Lords, probably about August, late August, Serbia will play England at home and have a 5-wicket win victory.
Okay, I've written that down. I'll come back to you on that one. So then what's your prediction then for the qualifiers in July?
For the
That's the real question.
The finals?
No, the qualifiers, our qualifiers in July. What's your prediction for that then? How are we going to get on?
Well, it's probably a bit early to say, unless you get Novak what's his name? Novak Djokovic. I call him Novak Djokovic, but no, Novak Djokovic. If he plays and uses his forehand to perfection, he might have a chance. If you get Hardik Pandya to crossover because of his wife, you got a chance. Otherwise, not much of it. But 2027, late August, Lord's Test match. Chris will be there. He'll have grey hair by then. And
talking to you for the next 6 years, I will do this for sure.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right? He's not very complimentary, is he? You need to read. Have you actually read this book, or you just look at the pictures?
Me? I'm not. I haven't read it. I don't intend on reading it.
Well, the author's Boris Majumdar, who he's been on my program. All right. So I believe that we've actually got more viewers now than we have at the beginning. So the reality is that India will probably win the next test match. They'll go 3-1 up. They'll then play New Zealand in the World Test Championship. What's your predictions for that?
Depending on the conditions in India, New Zealand will win comfortably that test. I think not comfortably, but New Zealand will win. They've got 2 tests against England in England which is a conveniently and perfectly timed mini series for them to warm up. And if it's a Duke's ball, which it will be, on a Lord's wicket, that they might, if there's a lot of cricket there this summer, it might be a pitch that favours the seam bowlers. And with those conditions, to look past Bolt, Southey, Jameson, and Wagner on those with that ball. Just not that I'd saying that India's seam attack isn't as good as New Zealand's. I think it's quite similar. I just think that New Zealand's batting order is much more accomplished at facing those sort of swinging conditions. So I think New Zealand will win it and win it quite comfortably.
Well, Ross Taylor's going to be playing it, and he loves England, doesn't he? He bats very well in England.
Yeah.
Williamson does as well. Richard, they're asking your opinion. Who's your favourite batsman? Have you already said that?
Yeah, I said that one before. I said Tendulkar. You can't look past Sachin Tendulkar.
Yeah, that's right.
66 people watching at the moment. It's
Would you stop looking at the numbers? How many people are watching?
It's intriguing. It's good to see.
Well,
We've got
actually, that's incorrect. It's a lot more than that because they come and go. So it's
exactly. It's a lot of Serbians apparently. We've got Novak on. We've got Hardik, Mrs. Pandya on. So,
well, Richard, it's your job. You have a mission. You're going to bring Novak Djokovic on here next time wearing the Serbian cricket shirt. Okay,
that's a big task. I don't know where to start. Where shall I start?
Well, you start by looking up his name and Googling him, and then find out where he is and send him an invite. I mean, it's pretty easy.
Right, I'll do it.
Difficult.
Tweet him. Just tag him on Twitter. We'll send
him
the link.
I did try and tweet him a few weeks ago, actually. I didn't hear back. Asking if he wanted a game, but I don't think he was keen.
Well, send him a photograph with the shirt, okay, and the logoing.
Yep.
With my name on the back, which will need to be a big shirt. Okay. All right. Thanks for coming on, Richard. We're just about hit the hour now. So the 4th test starts in literally a day and a half or thereabouts time.
Mm-hmm.
We predict that India will win that and win the series.
I said a draw. I think it'd be a draw. I think the groundsman will suddenly discover his ability to produce a flat wicket.
You reckon?
Yeah. I don't think India will. The thing of that 3rd test, and I know that India won it by 10 wickets, is that it was probably a closer test than it looks. Like India got rolled out for 140, and on another day, India could have lost that test. Lots of things go their way, and they deserve to win it. Don't get me wrong, but they won't want to risk that happening again because on another day, England could have bowled them out. You know what I'm saying? I think that India won't want to give any risk that England win the test unless they play really well. And the worse the wicket will bring England into the game more because it levels the playing field. So I think that India will want to make sure that defeat is out of the equation and just outplay England on a typical subcontinent wicket.
I'm not so sure. I think it's very defensive, and the way that India have been playing, they've not been defensive at all. So
yeah, you have to remember that England did win that first. England dismantled them in that first test. England won that.
Hang on, dismantled them?
They won it easily. England
won,
lost.
But dismantled sounds like they were thrashed.
What, 250 runs in a test match? That's close.
Yeah.
I'm not disputing. I'm saying India are massive favourites, but they'll be wary that England beat them comfortably in a test match less than 3 games ago, and they won't want to risk England playing well and winning the match because it's a drawn series and it takes them out of the World Test Championship. So I think
the way that Australia has played lately, I would say Australia would do that. They've been very defensive in the way they're playing it. So I don't know. I think India will be more attacking. I reckon Patel will go for block.
Oh, they should win it. Let's face it, England before the series, I think if you'd said you win the first test and you still be in the series going into the last test to draw it, I think they'll be delighted. I think that.
There's no doubt about that. I mean,
England haven't lost a test at home for 8 years. It's progress. To win a test is great.
No, I'm not. There's no point in defending England. England have done very well. I'm not saying they haven't done well. I've been very impressed with the bowling lineup, to be honest. And Leach he's impressed me. I mean, apparently he's taken 16 wickets, Patel 18 at 9.44, and Ravi Chandra Ashwin's taken 24 wickets at 28 wickets, I think it is, at 24. So it's been a remarkable series. And Leach is right up there with 16. That's pretty big effort from 3 tests, and I'm rather impressed with Leach. I think he's done a lot better than I thought he was going to do.
He's solid. He's just a solid, and I think the more he plays, you can see him sort of getting more confident. And I hope he plays in England. You know, I hope that they left arm spinner batter that turns it away from the bat is often difficult to face, because you can bring the LBW into play more than an off spinner would. England will take a lot of positives out. It's really difficult to sort of, how do you sit down in a changing room after that last test and try and break it down? You know, there's been talk about the pitch, there's been talk about the ball, there's been talk about a few things. It's how do you play one under floodlight test a year, maybe 2. It's hard to have a sample. You know, the analysts can't sit down much and say this is a trend over the last 50 years in playing these tests, which is a long way of the analysts. So it's I'm interested to see how the pitch plays with the red ball and see just how different it is. It's going to be an interesting talking point.
A question has been asked whether England's won at the Gabba. In fact, they did in 2010 because both
they drew.
They drew. Sorry, okay,
500 for 1, wasn't it, or something? They must have won back in the 80s. I'm sure both of them, when they went over there. I'm sure there was a low-scoring game, or when England bowled Australia out for 150.
There was some time ago. It was
160, I'm sure. Dean Headley, was it maybe, or Goffey?
There was some time ago.
Yeah, but you know, the Gabba is going to be a different prospect this year. You know, it's not going to be Tom Curran, Stuart Broad, and Jimmy Anderson. It's going to be Jimmy Anderson, Jofra Archer, Mark Wood, and Ben Stokes. You know, it's a different kettle of fish for the Australian batsman to think about. It's not going to be 3 medium paces. It's going to be 3 quicks.
Well, if Nathan Lyon has his way, he's going to bring the curator from Underbud and bring him over to Australia and probably straight to the Gabba.
I mean, what do you think Nathan Lyon was going to say? It's like asking a turkey what he wants to do on Christmas Day. Now, of course, he's going to say he wants to spin.
Are you saying that Nathan Lyon is a turkey? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that asking a spinner if he likes a spinning wicket is like asking a turkey what he wants to do at Christmas.
I don't quite get that, but am I meant to laugh now? Right, Richard, was I supposed to laugh this? No, I'm not sure.
I think you're supposed to.
Oh. Richard knew what the analogy I meant.
I knew where you were going with that, Chris. Yeah, I knew where you were going.
Nathan Lyon's a very fine bowler, but a very different bowler to Ashwin. And, you know, would Ashwin, for example, have taken as many wickets as Lyon if Ashwin's majority of games have been played in Australia compared? You know, they're different spinners, aren't they? It's chalk and cheese, but of course it's an interesting comparison. You know, they're very different bowlers, but
you can talk about Lillian Thompson playing on Australian England wickets and on in India, so you could use the same comparison. There's no point in making like justifiable reasons for why someone gets less or more wickets. The reality is Morley's got the most wickets, no matter what anyone says about him. He took the most wickets. Warren did as well. I mean, you can only go by fact, because when a person scores a century who was dropped 30 times, it doesn't count, does it?
Well, of course,
Richard? I mean, it's what's on the scoreboard that counts.
There's no debate for me that it's Warne over Murley for me every day of the week, twice on Sunday. You know, I'm not even. I think that Warne was comfortably a better bowler. I know that Murley took more wickets, but bearing in mind, probably 80% of those were in the subcontinent, because he'd played against Pakistan and India as well.
If you listen to Michael Hussey now, Michael Hussey is Mr. Cricket purity. Okay, when he says something, he's not lying. He's telling the truth. He said he had absolutely no idea where the ball was turning when Murley bowled him. Absolutely no idea. Okay, and that's my judge of a bowler on what Michael Hussey is, because he faced Shane Warne. He thought he was a good bowler, but he went overboard with his commentary about Murley, that he couldn't work out any way that he was bowling, which is quite a statement. And for that matter, Lasith Malinga, with his slinging action, was almost impossible to know where the ball's coming from, because it was in front of the umpire's stomach when it was released, more often than not.
I think there's talk about Murley and the controversy surrounding his action, and I'm not going to talk about that now, but there's things that maybe gave him an advantage with the Dusha, and, you know, for an off-spinner to bowl Dusha, it's pretty much impossible. Paruchal said James Anderson would not have taken that many wickets if he played in the subcontinent by logic. I agree. I completely and utterly agree that if Jimmy Anderson had played 150 tests in India, he wouldn't have 600 test wickets. I'm not disputing that at all. And I think Ishant Sharma is, what a trooper, what a brilliant career he's had. And it took him a while. You know, if you look at his first 70 tests compared to his last 20, you know, he's worked out, and it's taken him a while how to bowl in India. And what a great career he's had, and massively underrated. And home tests in India, unfortunately for the seamers, you're never going to have the glory as the Ashwins and the Patels, just because, you know, the wickets don't suit seam bowlers over a 5-day test. But, you know, I'm not sitting here for any sort of making any excuses and saying that Broad and Anderson, if they played in India their whole careers, wouldn't have taken as many wickets. Of course they wouldn't have done. You know, it's obvious.
No, the interesting, Ishant Sharma, I saw him bowl at Lords, an amazing spell. He bowled sensationally.
Do you think that Ishant Sharma, if you said to him tomorrow, and Jasprit Bumrah, if you said, would you rather, as a seam bowler, would you rather bowl in England or would you rather bowl in India? They're going to say we'd rather bowl in England. Of course they are. So, and, you know, Bumrah's obviously at the last test. I wouldn't be surprised if it is going to be a spinning wicket, if they might pick Hardik Pandya and just do a straight swap. If Pandya can bowl 5-8 overs a day, they don't need any more seam. They've got Ishant and Hardik, and then just pick the three spinners and lengthen the batting order. It's, you know, the two seamers just probably aren't going to be much use if they've done that.
Bumrah's out.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, if Hardik Pandya is fit to bowl, they might just pick Hardik to bowl a few overs here and there with Ishant and pick 3 spinners and pick the extra batter. But it's a possible idea. They don't need, if the pitch is going to be the same, they just don't need two seamers.
No, you're right. You're perfectly right. I mean, I have no problems with that at all. I think it's going to be very interesting indeed. All right. So, Richard, have you got anything you want to say? Do you want to be flogging some Serbian products like chocolates or something like that?
No, not flogging anything. Just wanted to let you know about how we're getting on, and obviously it was great to be on. So thank you very much for the opportunity to do so.
I'm very grateful, and it is interesting to me and Chris and for our viewers to hear about such developments, because, again, in 2027, when they win the game at Lords by 5 wickets, we're going to have heard it here on this show. It's a bold prediction, but you never know.
You never know. You get money on that?
Stranger things have happened. Normally,
that would be
the SCG.
Hey, Rohit Sharma getting 147 as far as you're concerned was strange. Okay, now, just to let our viewers know that this program, an Aussie and a POM, will continue. This is episode 9. There'll be a 10, 11, 12, don't worry. Maybe many more. But we are going to be honoured with a set of guests in only, just under an hour, in fact. And that will be Deep Dasgupta, who's a magnificent man, a polished gentleman, incredibly good keeper for India, underrated, I would argue, very highly regarded by his teammates. A great commentator on Star Sports. Have you heard him, Richard? He's been on Star Sports.
I've heard a bit of him, yeah.
Yeah,
him and Sonu Gavaskar have been on Channel 4 as commentator.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. And then David Graveney, who I just love talking to, he's just got incredible clout, and he can pull in names of people that he's helped careers. Again, imagine Richard being the person that's able to select a player to play for England. Huge responsibility.
Huge responsibility, but it makes someone's life, doesn't it, really? Imagine you get picked for England. That's a really good job.
I mean, it's not as big as playing for Australia, but it's still pretty good, yeah. I saw that. All right. Look, I've got like, okay. All right. I think we've gone long enough. Somebody's writing in what looks like Japanese or something. A person called Kane Williamson is fluent at Japanese. I'm just doubting whether he's really Kane Williamson. I'm sure Kane Williamson's not online. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it, Richard. We'll get you back later. We might get you on as a guest host of Chris Falls Ill due to some, rotten apple or something that goes on there. I'm not sure. And thank you, Chris Vernon, as always, at Vern158. Norman Kochling is at Norm Koch. And please send us messages via Twitter. It'd be appreciated. And yours was at Cricket Serbia, wasn't it, Richard?
Correct. Yeah, at Cricket Serbia.
Fantastic. All right, guys, thanks for your time. This is Norman Kochnik here with Chris and Richard signing off on Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnik. We'll talk to each other very soon. I'll be back on air in less than an hour talking with both Deep Dasgupta and David Graveney. All right, guys. See you later.